Welcome to The Gap, where it's our mission to bridge the gap between training and on-field performance.
I'm Brett Hart, owner of Hitman Performance.
And I'm Dan Labadia, the owner of Javelin.
Hope you guys enjoy the show.
If I didn't know who you were, tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Simple terms, I live in Miami. I am a full-time coach and athlete, and I just want to help as many athletes as I can become faster, stronger, and fitter for their sport.
I know that you do the multi. We've talked a little bit about your javelin throw in the past. You're a lefty. And talk to me about how does it help to be a decathlete, and how does that help as a coach?
Yeah, well, I guess for starters, people should know what the decathlon is. So for those that are listening and think it's an endurance event, it's not. Probably the furthest thing from it. So you have so just to give you a general theme, it's 2 days. Day one is the 100 long jump, shot put, high jump 400. Pure speed events. Day two, 110 hurdles, discus, pole vault, javelin, and the mile. So there's 10 events. You need speed, fitness, glycolytic power. You need power for the throws. You need elasticity for the jumps. So the reason why I explained the decathlon right there is because it is such a beautiful picture of athleticism. And the people who win it in the Olympics are the best athletes in the world, in my opinion, and I think it should be everyone's opinion. But when we're training athletes for field events or field sports like soccer, rugby, football, whatever that is, you need all 10 qualities to some shape or form, or shape or form. So the reason why I explain what the decathlon is just so people can understand. Training for this, you learn how to maximize the 100-meter dash, your pure speed, and how do you maximize your mile time, which are complete ends of the spectrum. And being in that, and I am the worst person in the world when it comes to cardio, and it is still my weakness. Speed is my weakness. Like, sadly, I have a lot of weaknesses. So with that comes an obsession to learn and how to maximize all those qualities. And then I think being in the ring, like learning how to do it myself, has taught me how to do it for other athletes, which I'm not saying it's easier, but when you're not being timed, it's easier because you have a skill component. So if I'm trying to train a soccer player to get faster and to build his cardio, it's on paper a lot easier because we're not timing his mile at the end of the day. Like, we can build his endurance and he might look faster on the field, but I truly believe you need to train all qualities for athleticism. That's what the decathlon is. And that's now what I bring to all my athletes, whether they're 100-meter sprinter, which is pure speed, we still do aerobic qualities because I believe every athlete needs to possess all 10 of these like athletic domains or athletic qualities, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And I always look at, we look at the training base or the training age of a lot of people and how that plays into their development down the road. I almost think that it's one of those things where I like the idea of having kids do gymnastics and wrestling from a young age because you get a wide variety of different events or different athletic skill traits. And I think that the decathlon is something very similar where if we almost started everyone off as a decathlete and then narrowed them down to specialize after that, it would be almost more beneficial because then you have people that you have at least experienced a little bit of everything. Like, how many people go to the throws, but they never learn the plyometric or the running side? How many people go to the sprints, but never try to throw a javelin or anything like that? And so, you're talking about how you're basically just have to maximize both ends of the spectrum, and how do you get to do that, and how do you bring out the best in each athlete? Real quick for you, I know that you are an athlete, you still compete, you're a coach, you also coach your wife, right? And you run an online business and so on and so forth. So what goes into maximizing your potential? Because you talked about the idea of learning through error, right, on yourself, and then you're also helping other people along the way. What does your day-to-day, week-to-week look like, and how do you balance all of that?
Yeah, balance is it's a funny word. It's definitely priorities, definitely trial and error. I've had a lot of I found out the hard way that you can't be married and train and coach 7 days in a row. I caught up to me. So no longer do that. But like on a typical Monday through Saturday, which is my week, Sundays, rest, church, spend time with the family, dog and cat. But throughout the week, Monday through Friday is pretty similar. Waking up at 6:30, 7 a.m., sometimes 6 at the earliest, but um, normally at the track by 8 a.m. And then we'll be at the track from depending on what events I'm doing that day and what Nicole's doing for training. We'll go to the track together and train. I'll do maybe 2 or 3 events. So I'll go, let's say just Monday, for example. We'll go to the track. She's doing sprints. I'm doing sprints. After she'll stay and help me out, I'll do some long jumps, some discus, like 2 other events usually. So we're there 2 or 3 hours. Leave the track, eat some food. We're at the gym by 12 because she has to get to work. She works at the gym. And I am either doing a throwing event because it's indoor against the wall or something, some kind of med ball stuff, javelin work against the wall, have like a soft indoor shot put. So some kind of technical work, and then I lift now is probably about an hour. It used to be an hour and a half. Um, Depends how much weight I'm moving. So depends how long the warm up is. But usually like an hour and a half is the weight. So usually by like 3 p.m., calling it a day when it's coming to training. So usually start track at 8, come back, eat, gym, done by 2, 3 p.m. And that's when my work starts. And by work, I mean content from the day is because cameras, when you're trying to grow your Instagram, your camera's always out. So I'm training the whole day. My camera's out the entire time. I finish training, download all the videos, crop them, make some edits, post on Instagram. Cool. Done with social media for the day. And then I normally have my first coaching session by like 4:30 p.m. So I get like a little window, just let the dog out, go coach till 7 p.m. and then pick the wife up and we go home. So that's kind of every day. I'm a very routine person. So every day is just that general theme of 8 to 3. I'm training, working on myself because you're only an athlete once, or at least an athlete trying to be at a high level once, in my opinion. Um, just sadly we all age. And then so that's my priority. That's number one. Business can come after. And then that's just kind of how I stack my day. Training, 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 business, home, family, redo it, and then just kind of rinse and repeat. Obviously, there's recovery days in there and some rest days, but that's the general theme of a day.
Jason, I'm just noticing everything behind you with the plaques and the medals. What are those? Sorry, I should have asked this before.
Yeah. So the medals are so my wife's a pretty good pole vaulter. So this is not me. So conference. So we went to college at FIU, Florida International. It's a Division I university. We're in Conference USA. So Nicole like balled out in college. She went her last. I think the last 4 conferences in a row she won. And it wasn't like she didn't have competition. Like she had like 2 girls go to nationals, but she just first attempts pole vault, like just extremely consistent. So she went one year. This is a commission award, some kind of FIU thing, but she won gold, 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 bronze, bronze. So she went 3 in a row. Sorry. So 2 bronze, 3 golds for conference, made regionals. I This is also her for African Games. I have some coaching band like what's it called credentials there to coach Nicole. But
Yeah, that's
this
the
is
way
all
to go.
Nicole. Yeah. If we turn here, this is a little bit more me. So I have like all my certifications. So like I have my master's up here, my bachelor's in exercise science. I have my nutrition license, strength coach license, personal training, and then I got to get my CrossFit level 1 and 2 up there too, because those are my recent learning binges.
Oh wow, CrossFit, you're getting into that?
No,
No,
I
just
am
kidding.
I'm the most certified non-CrossFit coach in the world, I think.
Oh, you're just coaching it?
Yeah, I'm not even coaching it. I just have it.
Oh.
Just have it. All right, nice.
No, CrossFit does a fantastic job of coaching. Like the way they break down movements and the way they teach you how to coach, I've never experienced anything like it. Like my master's did not do that. It was a great program, but the way they tell you to look at an air squat, the way they tell you to, don't speak while you're teaching, it's like little details you don't think of. But the way CrossFit views movement is just so like intricate. I had to get the level 2. It was really, really cool course. So for coaches, I recommend it highly, no matter what you coach.
So you talked about the ability to be an athlete once and how you're putting about 5, 6 hours a day into your own training right now. before you go on and coach and work on your business and so on and so forth. You talked a little bit about how you met Joe Padula, who we've had on the show. You met him at a conference recently, and you're getting these certifications and continuing your education. So talk a little bit about, what do you find helpful in the strength and conditioning or in the speed realm? Do you find the certifications helpful? Do you find your college helpful? Do you find the conferences helpful? What have you seen to benefit you?
That's a really good question. I'd say reading.
Hmm.
That's probably the biggest one. I know, because I think I've seen Brett, you posted like the books you read before. I've seen one of you guys post the
It's
books.
probably me.
It was not you. I was just it was definitely not you. It's so funny you said reading. I was like, Dan's out. Dan disagrees immediately. But I love, I mean, I've talked about it before, and I'm just getting surgery soon, and I'm going to be out like on the DL. I haven't posted about it yet, but by the time this comes out, I'm sure it'll be on my Instagram. But this will be like the series of education and reading the next month or two that I can't really do anything. So I've found reading and getting a lot of stuff from Austin Yoakum early on, like those book recommendations. And I think reading's helpful, but the context you need behind it in order to apply it, I think that's where I learn the most of, and that's why I'm really bummed out, because I'm gonna be sitting in my bed reading stuff that I really want to go do, but I'm not gonna be able to. So I do agree, though. Reading is definitely important to give you a better understanding of the behind the scenes as to what you're doing. Because I was doing drop catch, random stuff, triphasic stuff without reading it 3 years ago, and I kind of fell out of it because I just didn't really know like what is this actually doing. But the reading is definitely really, really cool.
Yeah. But I think what you said there is the biggest reason behind the reading
Mm-hmm.
is you can have all the knowledge in the world, but if you don't know how to apply it, you don't know how it feels, like it's useless. So that's where I think reading is the most beneficial thing because like right now, I've been working on super training for like a year now. I mean, I'm coming up with like 10 months.
Encyclopedia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a phenomenal book, but like, cause I'll read it and then the way he'll say something like, "Oh, that reminds me of West Side," and then I'll go read a West Side book, and then he'll say something. It's like it just I keep getting rabbit trail to different books, and I'll read different books back to super training. But it's like cool stuff like that. Like when I first started reading it, he's talking about shock method. Um, for anyone that doesn't know, it's just falling off a high object, shocking your tendons, and rebounding off the ground. I tried the 4x10 at a super maximal height. I didn't complete 4x10. I got to like 30 and I was like, oh, my Achilles is aching. So stuff like that, like, yeah, it looks cool. It worked for them, but it doesn't work for me. It might not work for my athletes. So I think that's where reading is the most important because it gives you so much context and so much knowledge, but then you need to apply that by coaching actually in person, not just online, because I know everyone wants to be an online coach. I did at one point too. But I think in person is where you see this is not working. We need to switch like on the fly. Or why am I in pain right now? The book said it's good, but it's a textbook. It's not working with real humans. So that's definitely the biggest thing I've learned.
Yeah, I definitely see where you guys are coming from. I'm personally a really big long form content guy because I listen to a ton of podcasts, and if I have a topic that I want to learn about, I love watching like 15 to 30-minute YouTube videos on them and trying to gain a little bit more context and knowledge that way because I'm just more of a visual learner. And that's what's helped me even from the time I was a history major in college and I was passing my board exam to be certified to be a history teacher. The first time around I took the test, I read the book, okay, and I studied the book and I failed by like 2 points or something. But I was really close to passing. And then the second time around, I just found a whole YouTube series about it and I just studied the YouTube series. And then after that, I was able to pass it. And so even going beyond into getting my master's and then now, doing everything I'm involved in now is like I find certain people that I trust I could tell if I trust them and if I like their stuff by their long form content. And I think that's what you were kind of getting at with like everyone wants to be an online coach. When they look at that short form 15, 30-second clip on Instagram, a lot of times it's not enough context to actually know if this is if this is a good thing to try or how to actually implement it in terms of the education side. So what are some things that you do to be able to filter through who's a good online resource that you would trust in terms of, you don't have to drop names or anything, but just how do you kind of go around, all right, if I'm seeing something on Instagram, is this valuable? Is it not valuable? Is it not long enough to have the context? And then like, do you kind of go through that process of like trying to find a long form piece of content on that person as well?
Yeah, I mean, what you said about the long form, that's essentially it's just books you're watching. Like it's still you still get so much value from it. In my opinion, it's the same thing, but just with my time, I have more time to read at night. It's just easier for me. Um, as far as that goes, yeah, social media, especially on Instagram, like short form stuff, I've unfollowed a lot of coaches because their whole profile is let's use no allows, for example, and I'm doing the face and the bottom. No allows is doing this, this, and this for training because of these reasons. And that's all their profile is. Like I have nothing against those videos. I've done it before. But when that's your whole profile, just commentating on someone's account, and then they have 100,000 followers, it's like you're just pointing things out. Like, I don't know, that's where social media gets frustrating for me, is because a high quality coach he might be the best coach in the world and have awful marketing skills, and not know how to use social media. But someone who has
We talk about that all the time. That's why it's hilarious. Yeah, we talk about that off camera, but yeah, what you're saying is something that the what we were saying about the growing the podcast and the content and getting people on is just how many people just really suck at posting on Instagram, but are just absolute geniuses. And there's so many out there.
like like Jacob Gooden.
When you guys are talking about the course and everything, that's what I used to pass my CSCS because he has the YouTube series. So I never read the Essentials book. I did Dr. Jacob Gooden's YouTube course, and I did the Pocket Prep, and I did 2,000 questions and 50 practice tests before I took the CSCS. After I failed it the first time, I failed the first section by 2 points. Or no, I failed, yeah, the first section because that's the exercise science physiology part and then the practical part. But yeah, the very first time, the second time I passed, but that's all I did was the practice questions and then his YouTube course.
Yeah, because his YouTube he's an amazing channel. Like he's really good. But then on Instagram, I think he has like I've been talking to him a lot recently because we're thinking about like a collab. But he has like 6,000, 8,000 followers on Instagram. But the guy is so smart and so good at what he does. But it's just because he doesn't post enough. Like that's the only reason he's not bigger. I mean, but he's like he's a professor. He's traveling the country. Like he does so much. So like that's some example. And then I'm not going to say the bad example, but then you have the guys just pointing out some things they're doing and here, pay me for one-on-one coaching. It's like, where's your evidence? What do you do? Like, I don't know. It's just stuff like that. That I think just with time, I realize not necessarily like something I watch, but also the way they speak about things. Like, I don't know, kind of hard to explain. Maybe you guys can help me out here, but
Yeah, I think what you're saying too is it's really hard to fake it in a podcast, or I mean YouTube you can edit and kind of fabricate a little bit, but when you have over 100 videos that are 15 to 20 minutes of you speaking in front of the camera and articulating your message, you get pretty good at it, and you could sniff that out if it's good or not. I mean, I think Will Rattel has been someone who was an influence for me because I was always, Will, right? Yeah. So because I had heard a lot of coaches talk about his ability to improve his speaking was a trait that he basically developed over time. And so even with like the podcast and stuff, it's like, yeah, we might have days where my thoughts aren't as clear. I might be stumbling over my words and so on and so forth. But when you go back and you listen to 120 podcast episodes of us talking, it's pretty hard for me to fake my message for 120 hours. And so that's where I have posted, obviously, like some videos of high level javelin throwers that I haven't coached. But then I've also worked with an 84 meter thrower. I've also worked with a lot of high school and college athletes and have developed them. And that is 99% of my content is the athletes I'm working with. And then every once in a while, you'll pull out a clip of Yamamoto throwing the turbo jav before he wins the MVP of the World Series, or you pull out Jan Zalesny throwing the world record and talk about the donkey kick follow through and things of that nature. So I just think that it's not bad to use those every once in a while. It's entertaining, it's fun, but at the end of the day, if you're trying to convince people to work with you, you need to be able to hold a conversation for 15 to 60 minutes about that topic, because when you train someone in person or even online over a Zoom session, that's how long you're going to be talking to them. You're going to be talking to them for 30 minutes to an hour. So you need to be able to have enough knowledge to carry that conversation through and be able to coach the person week after week. And I just think that that's where the long form content comes into play. And it's just, you need to be careful on the short form stuff to not just get into that habit of you need to post your results, and you need to post yourself, and you need to post your athletes. And I think that's the benefit of us being young coaches as well, is we're still very athletic and strong and mobile, and we can show ourselves training on our Instagrams as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, what you said is I agree 100% with. Like, it's great. It's still entertaining, but I just don't think that should be the whole, 100% of your content.
Yeah.
Especially the way I think I see social media is it's a place to help people. Like right now, I have 60,000 followers. I see that as I can help 60,000 people who might not be able to afford coaching, might not know what I know, might not have access to this. Like, that's the way I see it, is I want to help 60,000 people, not make a quick buck off of each person. And that's like just the way I view social media.
I just had a cool thing with my school, which I just released yesterday. The guy commented about like why he was there. I have people asking like an introductory, and he said it's just information overload and used car salesman in the fitness space right now. Like that's pretty much what you're seeing on those quick 30-second things. If they're trying to get that quick buck, DM me for coaching. And I think it's just the mark of a charlatan too, of when they only when they make it feel like you need them, and when you speak in absolutes. I think that is like a true testament to them really trying to get a sale out of you, is when they only promote one certain way of doing it, and it's their way, and it's the magic ticket, and you need this. When, as you know, being in the strength and conditioning field and going through academia and going through conferences and speaking to other coaches, there's a lot of ways to get results. Like there's a lot of people out there, really smart people, doing a lot of totally different things. And there is no true one right way. And I think that is something that is not that marketable on social media yet. I think it's starting to, where I think we're at the social media bubble where everyone's trying to do that fitness guru stuff. And I think it's finally going to start to turn back to, all right, who's just actually doing the stuff they're talking about? Like like Will Rattel's major posts are just him lifting like all the time. And he posts his in-person stuff too. And him going back to speaking is just, he's a professor now, like, which is really cool to see.
Well,
So, Will, yeah, he's a professor.
Yeah, kinesiology, I think.
Kinesiology professor.
Yeah. I feel
Dr. Haas. But going into your background and knowledge and seeing what you're posting on social media, you are posting a variety of athletes. You're posting yourself, higher level athletes, youth athletes. What's the biggest difference that you've seen from training the youth athlete who's literally just getting started versus someone that's had a couple years of training behind them?
yeah, so I'm actually working on an ebook right now for that because I like reading, I like writing. It's going to be like how to gamify training for kids. Um, because right now my youngest athlete's 6, my oldest athlete's 20, 25. Call it like Division 1 athlete. So it's I think I'm covering every single spectrum. Um, as far as training goes, it's on paper, or like when you strip everything away, it's the same. We still do plyos, we still jump, we still sprint, and we still challenge ourselves. Obviously, the more advanced athlete, we're going to be doing more advanced things. We might do like single leg bounce for distance. We might do sprint flow sprints, like 60-meter sprints. Like, we're pushing we're training like a professional. The 6-year-old they might be doing a pogo series, but I have to yell a color when they finish the pogos and they have to go sprint to that color. Or I might have them, like I might time it. How fast can you do 10 pogos throughout the hurdles? They don't know they're doing pogos. They're jumping. I'm just having them change direction. Like they don't know what they're doing. So it's like I take what I use for the college athletes. So it's 15-minute dynamic warm-up, 15-minute plyos, 30-minute sprint session. I might take that theme, same concept for the kids, but then I make the dynamic warm-up. We're gonna walk like animals. We're gonna crawl. We're gonna do cartwheels. I gamify it. The jumps are competitive. The sprints are races. It's so it's same theme, same, you know, food template, but the ingredients are different, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, it allows you to follow the same type of structure, but just modify it based on the audience you're working with.
Yeah.
Do you know who Jeremy Frischk is?
Is it FRI like SCH? Is that how you spell
Yeah.
his name?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I follow. He does only youth stuff.
Only youth, yeah. So that was because he was a collegiate strength coach and he realized all of his athletes were just poor movers. He always felt like he had to start over at square one when they got to him. And Holy Cross was Division I school. Like these are some pretty good athletes, but he's saying that they are just fundamentally not where they need to be in order to perform at their best. So now he went all the way back to youth and is I think he's one of the best at gamifying youth training and the stuff that he posts because it's a different session every time. And training youth kids multiple times per week, you literally run out of ideas so fast in order to how to make it creative. So when I was doing it at the gym that Dan and I were working at, he was a big resource. Like I got to meet him, I got to shadow a session and talk to him about it because I used to work up near him when I was in Cressy's place. But that was no youth, and then you go to just all youth, and it's just controlled chaos. You got them flipping into bags. They're running around. Kids are crying. He's like, yeah, that's normal.
Go look at my post I did last night. I called it controlled chaos. That was actually the name of my post because I had them doing. It was just a drill, but it looked like controlled chaos, and that's what I called it. So it's ironic, but I didn't mean to get into coaching kids. I've actually, when I was trying to grow my business here in Miami, it was high school athletes, college athletes. I wanted to do pro, like, everyone does. And then you realize it's either not financially stable, not fun, or it's just, you can't, like, it's hard to get. So,
It also probably takes a lot more time away from yourself and your own training.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So recently, this is like 12 months recently. When I partnered with the CrossFit gym, we had only kids. I was starting an athletic branch and we only got kids, 10 and under. I didn't want to do it. I did not want to be a kids coach, but it happened. And then through this process, I started learning how to gamify stuff. And then I started getting actual good kids who enjoyed training. Didn't enjoy training, but listened, worked hard, and then started enjoying training. So that's when I started getting like hooked on it. Because man's gotta make a living. So financially, I started getting way more kids that are consistent on a week-to-week basis because they don't have high school club sports. They don't have all these things. It's their parents' schedule. I come to their house and it's consistent. So financially, that's why I really started doing it a lot more. And now I truly, truly enjoy it. Like it is, I have 3 kids I train Tuesday, Thursdays. I look forward on my drive to their house. Like I'm so excited. I'm like, oh, I got this new game today. We're gonna try it out. I can't wait to see how it goes. Like I'm excited. And they get excited. So now thinking we have a 6-year-old, they might have good technique for the next 20 years. Like just think of the compound interest on that. And I never wanted to coach kids because I'm like, no, they don't need to. Go play your sport, go do this. But financially I needed it, so I said yes. And it's been a blessing.
Well, Jason, what I think that you're speaking on is when you're bad at something, you're not going to like it, right? And when you are new to it, you are not going to be as good at it, right? And so you got the reps almost because you were forced to. And then as you improved, you developed a newfound enjoyment for it because you improved that skill and you got better at it. So it wasn't as taxing and mentally straining and not as unenjoyable. And now it turned into something that you could enjoy.
That's actually a really good point. That's spot on. I didn't even think about that, but yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
accurate.
I mean, I think about that a lot with like the podcast and the YouTube channel for me because we've been doing it for 2 years now. And so we've done over 100 YouTube or we've done over 100 podcasts and 200 YouTubes. And, at the beginning, it's like when you're screwing around with the camera and the mics for 8 hours on a Saturday and you have
It's a true story.
5 people listening to your show it's not that fun.
You're getting all this input, no output. It's just
Yeah, so that's how I am. It's like now I feel like, I mean, we still screw up some technical stuff sometimes, but like now I feel like I'm able to enjoy podcasting with Brett and having people on the show because I'm a lot better at it now than I was 2 years ago. And also just we trust the technology and the system that we have. But it took us to learn a lot of that stuff to be able to do it. So I think about that all the time with anything in my life. It's like, yeah, I mean, if I don't like something, it's probably because I'm pretty bad at it. If I was good at it, I would probably enjoy it a lot more because I would get a reward from it.
It's probably why you don't like reading.
What does that mean?
You're a bad reader. Think of the smartest people in middle school. I mean, I used to get mad at, because I used to read a lot in middle school, and you kind of wean off of it the more you just get used to social media and like the quick hits and whatever. You actually get changes. But the kids that would read at a faster rate than me and be able to retain information would be something that would almost like drive competitiveness out of me. Because like, how are you reading so fast and knowing all of it? I'm reading the same page, like some ADD type stuff, where I'm reading the same page and I get to the bottom of the page, I have no idea what I just read, and I got to read the same page 5 times. It's taken me double the time to read this book, while this person can read it in half the time and still have all the information. So that's where it's just like, when you feel like you're not good at something, you don't want to do it. And I think that's the importance of training youth kids. And I think what gets messed up with youth development is they try to make it too much like professional sports, or they try to make it so much structured and programmed that the kids get bored and they just don't like it, and then they end up falling out of love with it. So that's where I think the gamification is huge for that population, because if you can get a 6 and 8-year-old kid to enjoy it and have that mental connection of, I love training and it's fun, and you can keep that going. So when it's time to get more serious, or where you have to actually start logging your workouts and tracking your nutrition and showing up to sessions that you don't want to do, you still had that positive feedback loop when you're younger, and it's not something that you resent to do. It's probably why most people hate running or long distance running, is because it was always used as a punishment.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I have some kids right now who actually left a coach for that reason. Like, just because they're like, he wasn't fun. Like, we didn't enjoy our time with him. He wasn't a bad coach. Like, I've seen his stuff. He's pretty good. But they were doing wicket sprints and A skips, and they're 6, 8 years old. It's like, no, they don't want to do 2x20 and 2 minute recovery between stuff. Like, it's boring. I got bored thinking about that.
Jason, last week, or not last week, last year when we spoke, we had a call together just to kind of talk about track and field and training and all that type of stuff. You had said that you were trying to basically be a speed coach for all different sports, if I remember correctly. Is that still still the same path that you're on, or has that changed at all?
No, hasn't changed. Even now, so I partner with a CrossFit gym called Peak 360, and so like, I'm running the athlete side. Even with that athlete side, our motto is like, we're not motto, but like our thing is becoming faster, stronger, more explosive. Like, so speed is still the priority for everything we do. Obviously I'm doing more weight room stuff now. But I've always loved the weight room. But speed is still the priority of everything. Mainly because I truly believe it is the priority of everything. Like, just think of every sport, like even the slow sports, like a marathon run. Their goal is how fast can you from point A to point B. So I believe speed is the foundation of everything. So I don't think that'll ever change. Maybe the way I do it will change, but I think that'll always be the main focus.
How do you make sure the stuff that you do in the weight room directly helps with your speed training? Because I know a lot of people will argue back and forth of when to do what, or what exercise to do when, or not do too much in the weight room or do too little on the field, stuff like that. So how are you making sure that your weight room stuff is helping supplement the speed and the velocity component?
Yeah, I think we could have a whole podcast just on that topic. That could be a deep topic. So I see it as priorities. Like the way I told you my schedule, I put the priority of my self-training first and my wife, then the business. And well, family is not last, but we do the whole day together. So but I order everything priorities. Same thing with training. If your goal is to become the fastest 100-meter sprinter in the world, then why is getting only stronger your priority? So it's like it's all balanced. Like we could talk about the motor unit recruitment and the tendon stiffness you'll get from the weight room and all these benefits, but it's really just priority. So if the weight room is not taken away from what you're doing on the track, on the field, whatever you're trying to do speed wise, if it's not taking away, then do it. Like great, fantastic. But if when the weight room becomes such a negative thing that is causing your speed to decrease just for accumulated fatigue, or you're trying to chase that 405 back squat too much that it's affecting your 40, like obviously that will happen. That's why we periodize. Like you can't maximize both. So obviously that does happen for a short period of time. But if you're doing that year round, which I made the mistake of, just continuing to push strength and strength and strength, thinking it's going to help your speed, that's when I think it becomes a negative association. As far as positives go, I mean, look at guys like Carl Lewis. Like you don't, I mean, he's freak, obviously 1%, but you can get really, really good without the weight room. So essentially, you don't need it if your goal is speed. Yes, it can help, but as long as it's not inhibiting or hurting you, I think that's the biggest thing. And people are always so worried about, oh, how can it do the 1%? I see it the opposite. Yeah, how can we make sure it's not hurting this? Like, obviously, I want to supplement it and help it, but let's just make sure like this never becomes priority over the speed stuff.
We talk about that with the weight room hero and why your skill always matters more than the lifting that you do. Because that was us. That was me definitely to a T. Of you just get that feedback right away in the weight room though, and it is addicting. Like you see your squat numbers go up, your deadlift, your bench. Like you feel you're getting the pump. You see the feedback right away in the mirror if you have mirrors in your gym or not, which I would argue never to have mirrors if you're training high school guys or college guys in a gym. Just don't even bother having them in there because upper body days will take 3 hours. But that is something that is important, I think, for people to understand is the prioritization of what actually matters for what your goal is that you say it is. Like if your goal is to lift as much weight as possible, like you probably should stop playing whatever sport it is and just go powerlift. Like what's the point? Like what if your goal is to be the best football player? Well, then we have a lot of different things we got to prioritize and look at and see what we can do to actually make that happen.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Jason, talk a little bit about you said speed is the basis of everything. And we just had Kara Winger and Ariana Ince on the podcast last week. And if you don't know who they are, Kara's the or the United States record holder in the javelin. She made 4 Olympic teams. Ariana has thrown 64 meters as a female and has made 1 Olympic team and like 3 or 4 world championship teams. They were talking about how the number one problem with javelin throwing in America is that everyone is trained by heavy throws coaches. So they're trained by shot put, discus, hammer guys for the most part. And then javelin is seen as a last resort. All right, we're gonna follow the same weightlifting program. You're gonna do the same med ball stuff, and you're gonna work on your power position in the javelin throw. And saying how none of them prioritize the sprinting and the jumping with the javelin throwers, where that's where the Europeans have the leg up on us. So, in your experience, how much does speed play a role into throwing in general, not even just the javelin? And how could we use speed to improve the javelin throw?
Yeah, so I actually so the college, the FIU, I'm still coaching there. And so I do coach the heavy throwers and the javelin throwers. I do all the weight training, all the field work. And yeah, like what you said, that's such a big misconception. And the way all the throwers have been trained the past couple of years is like a heavy thrower. The way I categorize it is heavy throwers, and then I put javelin with the jumpers actually. So I train the javelin and jumpers almost identical. Javelin's just doing a little bit more upper body, a little more Olympic lifts. But it's very, very similar to a jumper. Um, Remind me of the question. I just completely blanked out.
No, you're good. It was kind of a long question, but basically it was just saying like how could speed help javelin throwing or throwing in general? Because what we see a lot of times as javelin coaches or athletes is that these javelin throwers are being grouped with the shot put and discus guys, and they don't get the speed and the plyometric work that they need to actually transfer it to the runway.
Got it. Okay, so the way that I believe everyone should view what you're training for is there's two areas to look at is how fast you have to be moving and then how long or what's your time duration to create the force needed for that movement or that activity. So javelin, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe exit velocity for the javelin is was it 30 meters per second? Do you know?
Talking about on the release of the hand.
Yeah, the release of the hand.
I know like a 90-meter javelin throw is about 65 miles an hour. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so around meters per second. So that's the way I just do the continuum is sprinting. If you're an elite sprinter, you're 10, 11, or good Division One, 10, 11 meters per second. Shot put release is around 14, 15 meters per second. Javelin's double that. Like the release of a javelin is so fast and it's happening in the blink of an eye. Like in point, I think it's like point 0.2 of a second is from the whole throw from block leg to release. It's not a lot of time and it is very, very fast. So that's where I believe like javelin is such a fast event that we need to be training this speed aspect. Like if you do, max bench press, your time to peak velocity might be, it could be half a second or slower. Like if you're really grinding, it might be closer to a second. Now, if I need to release this javelin, and I'm talking, we're doing point 1, point 2, like what? Yeah, there's good, but that's where we need both sides of the continuum. Yeah, we need that slow, strong, heavy force. But if we only have a tenth to release it, like okay, sprinting is a lot closer to it. And skips for distance, skips for height, replicates that block leg a lot more. So that's where I really think plyos and sprinting helps bridge the gap more, which is ironic, the gap. And I just read it as I was saying it. But like I think it helps bridge the gap from the strength work to the javelin because javelin's more towards the sprinting. So sprinting's here. I'd say javelin's more here. Weight room's over here. Like it's a far end. So it's a lot closer to that sprint work. That's where I think that's foundational. You need it for health and everything and maximal strength. But if we really want to peak and learn how to release that fast, we need to be working over here in that sprint jumping side.
Yeah, I mean, what you said is so valuable for anyone listening. And I hope my audience is tuning into this episode because that would be really, really cool for them to hear. But the big shift that I've had over the last 3 or 4 years has been harnessing that speed aspect so much more because a lot of times what you see with javelin is you see the mobility side of it, people doing the back bridges, the thrower stretch, you see them doing the lifting stuff, being jacked. That's all important. But the more I get into the coaching, I'm realizing that the arm speed is so important that you're not going to replicate that as much just by lifting heavy. And the approach work, like down the runway and getting through the block, you're not going to just have really, really fast speed down the runway just because you do base level mobility and some pogo hops. You need to be training that top end velocity and working your way up to get to the point where you are moving quick and your body is able to handle that fast velocity movement. And it's funny because you're talking about how fast the arm moves on the release. And I just got into a huge fight on Instagram with a bunch of baseball players because we were talking about like how, obviously when you throw something, if you throw something lighter, you have more stress on the elbow and the shoulder a lot of time because your arm's moving so much faster. So the higher velocity movement is higher risk of injury, which is why javelin typically has way more injuries than a shot putter or a discus thrower. And that being said, obviously the biggest thing is that a lot of baseball players don't understand the context of what it's like to throw a steel carbon fiber 8-foot long spear, where if you don't hit the point perfectly, any misalignment is just extra torque and extra stress on the elbow. So anyway, I had a whole post about it and we were just going back and forth. It's a whole, like you said earlier, it's like a whole different topic of conversation that we could get down the road. But that being said, 800 grams seems heavy to a baseball player, but it's still actually very light in terms of how fast your arm can move after you just finish sprinting 30 meters into the block and throwing it. Your arm is still moving very fast, and it is a lot of torque that we need to be able to replicate that speed in our training to be able to hold up.
Yeah. And actually, I have personal experience with this too, which might be like a cool little story to back this up is, so I tore my labrum and supraspinatus tendon back in 2021 Javelin, nice flick and just pop, there goes the shoulder. But during that time, I was benching 300 pounds. I was throwing a javelin 45 meters. I was new to it, and well, not new. I've been doing it for 2, 3 years, but I was benching 300, throwing it 45 meters. Tore the shoulder, so I had to figure out, okay, I can't bench press anymore. I couldn't even do upper body because it hurt so bad. And then I think it was, I don't know the exact time frame, but either a year or two later, I started reading up on javelin anatomy, and like he's talking about how important relaxation is in the throw and stuff, and just getting a volume of low intensity throws just to learn how to get the whip in the chest and lat. And so that was what I did because that's all I could do. If I threw hard, it hurt my shoulder. I couldn't bench. I couldn't do any kind of pressing. So my bench probably dropped to like 250, 260 if I had to guess. Um, my approach is still only 3 crossovers. Remember, I'm a multi. I suck at full approaches. It's just really hard to learn.
The drawback aspect is definitely the biggest learning curve that I see is going from forward to sideways.
Yeah, for sure. So nothing changed here. My bench dropped probably 50 pounds. My approach still the same, still 3 crossovers. But I went from 45 meters to 51 meters in the span of a season with a torn shoulder, only doing reflexive and quick stuff. Funny thing is my 100 also dropped from 11.8 to 11.4 that time frame because I couldn't weight train as much. So because I removed this heavy strength stimulus and I did so much fast and reflexive and plyometric work, my javelin skyrocketed without, ever doing maximal throws. My sprinting skyrocketed, and this is like a 3 month window. It was so fast. I was like, oh, I'm going to the Olympics if I continue this. Like that's how fast the results were. Like it was amazing. Like sadly, I haven't had it since because I did have surgery, but because of that, I learned like the weight room is not the answer because it was stripped away from me, and that's how I learned the other ways. And I saw firsthand, like, wow, this is cool. And
Yeah, I
then
mean,
that's where I learned everything.
yeah, I had a very similar situation with a lot of javelin anatomy stuff where I had Tommy John surgery on my elbow and then went into a 3 month period where I just did all of his mobility stuff and I learned all about the relaxation and being able to relax and contract under tension and just learning how to move your spine, how to move your pelvis, your shoulders, all of that different stuff with the mobility. And that was a really good foundation to me because then when I went back to weightlifting, I was able to maintain that mobility. And then as I got towards my season, same thing as you, I ended up improving by 5 meters. But then what happened was my tricep started bothering me. And then my left hip flexor, which was my block leg, started bothering me. So that, looking back at it now, and when I started training with Brett, I learned a lot of that new speed stuff that we talk about on the show all the time. And that's where, because of my deceleration at the block, when I was hitting the block leg, my hip flexor is like getting lit up, which is causing my back to hurt. And then my tricep was giving me a bunch of pain because I trained really well after Tommy John surgery, but I trained very slow. Everything I did was slow. I just moved weight slow, and then I would just do a random, power clean. And then I pretty much didn't throw that much because I was still kind of nursing like my elbow coming back to health. So I didn't have like a super long off season of like progressing up to full approaches. And I would just do slow lifting and slow mobility. And then when I started getting those injuries, it was because I was now really healthy and I was more athletic than I was before. I was bringing a lot more speed and a lot more force just because I was a better athlete and more powerful. And then now my ability to produce that power was greater than my ability to be able to decelerate upon impact, which is a big thing Brett's been talking about recently. You want to say the quote?
Yeah, when your skill outweighs your preparation is when injuries occur. So I was talking. That's a Jay Schroeder quote. I did not come up with that, by the way. That's not mine. But it's
Jay Schroeder, Bret Hart,
yeah, Michael Scott, Wayne Gretzky. but it's true. I mean, I was referencing it in terms of high school baseball athletes that are throwing 95, 96, 97 miles per hour, but they can't do 5 chin-ups or hold a push-up isometric for 30 seconds or perform a lunge properly or know even how to bear crawl. Like simple foundational movements that they don't know how to do, but their skill level is just so high. So that is where you get the very common overuse injuries, and we were talking about it with Nick Del Bianco, right? Del Bianco.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we were talking about him. Is it overuse or underpreparedness? Like, what is the injury actually coming from? Is it actually due to the fact that you're doing too much, which in my opinion, I don't think a lot of people really are. I think it's just severely underprepared, and people always hammer the skill work. And I'm sure you probably see it in Miami where football, the DB wide receiver drills are popular. I mean, I just see the clips on Instagram all the time. I feel like that's a hot spot for stuff like that. But like, these guys are doing so much skill work, but they're not training how to stop or absorb force or even produce force. They're just asked to do hang cleans and power cleans without the proper sequencing and knowing exactly what it is to take to move the weight, which I was going to ask you about is running in a straight line, doing plyometrics in a straight line, doing all these things to get really fast is awesome. But what happens when they're a field sport and they need to change direction on a dime? Like, how do you implement deceleration and change of direction work to help these different athletes perform the best on the field?
I mean, deceleration is the most intense form of training. It's you can experience, forces that's up to like 10 to 15 times body weight. Max sprinting is 5 to 6 times body weight. So deceleration is way more, especially because it's happening eccentrically. There's a way higher risk of injuries. So when it comes to change of direction, deceleration, it is almost more important in my opinion than the max speed work because like let's take a long jumper for example. You can have person A and person B. This guy can be way slower than person A, both sprinting down the long jump runway, but this person has no eccentric RFD. Like they hit the board and they just crumble because they can't handle the force to decelerate, project them up. Person B, on the other hand, might be slower, but can handle that force so nicely that they just kind of like quick off the ground. They're not losing anything and they can jump a whole meter further. Like that's real situations I see all the time. So the deceleration, eccentric RFD, whatever you want to call it, all the same stuff is more intense, harder, and a lot of times more important, especially in field athletes or jumping athletes, because that's what gets you off the ground and that's what changes direction. As far as training goes, I probably have 10% of my athletes actually need to change direction. So a lot of my stuff is linear, only because we don't need to do it. But when it comes to actually training for it, that's where I think plyos are really, really important. And when I say plyos, I mean like, bounding, skip for height, skip for distance. Because yeah, we're not completely stopping, but you're learning how to redirect force with every movement at a higher velocity. So we don't want to just learn to decelerate like with a heavy back squat. We want to, how fast can we do it? How fast can we stop? Like an altitude drop, like a depth drop. It's it's all forms of shock training. But then as far as like change of direction drills go, I don't do a ton of that with like high school, college athletes just because I don't have a need for it. For the youth athletes, I'll just do it like I'll make a circle with cones and we'll do like curve sprints into some kind of competition or something. But just making sure I'm running in different directions. Right now, my volleyball girls, I have them going like 5 yard back pedal. The moment we get to that line, you got to stop on a dime and go. And we'll change stuff like that. So I just take the sprint I'm doing that day, and how can I start them off in a different direction to where they have to stop and redirect it. So I try and keep it simple, try not to get too fancy with it, but just through plyos and then mixing up the way they start their sprints. It's kind of how I check those boxes.
Yeah, I think what you said about the long jumpers and the triple jumpers is so important, and it could definitely be related to the javelin as well, because it's not just about how fast you can run down the runway. It's like if you hit the block and you crumble and your throwing arm goes all the way out to the side or crumbles in, or your block leg just allows you to just dump your chest down, you're never going to get that big throw. And then also it's almost better at that point if you could go a little bit slower and methodical and have really good rhythm, but then hit a really good power position and still maintain and build speed through the end. You're probably better off than just hauling ass down the runway and then blowing through everything.
Yeah, which is that's why back to when I was throwing javelin, 3 crossovers worked better for me than a full approach because I couldn't handle the block. Because I think the block in javelin is probably in track and field. I probably put it right there next to triple jump. Like it is, unless you do it, like you don't realize how intense it is. I definitely say it's more than a high jump because you're coming to a dead stop. It's probably there with like the second or third flight phase of triple jump. It's really up there.
Yeah, I mean it's really tough on the body too. And like I was saying, when I was coming back from my Tommy John rehab, I trained in that stand throw all the time. I trained in the bilateral stance all the time, just because I felt like it felt better on my arm. So whenever I never trained in that unilateral throwing position, a lot of times I never trained with anything more than a 7-step. And so I got comfortable doing what I was training doing. And then I would go back to the full approach, and yeah, I would throw a little bit further, but like you said, it was so much more speed that I wasn't used to it. So it was just causing me a lot of issues with my hip and my back.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's said. It's just specific adaptations to impose demands. That's all it is. You got to do what you want to get better at. Same thing goes for full approach, short approach. It's still different. Looks the same, but from the forces standpoint, it's completely different.
Jason, where can people find you to learn more about what you have to offer? Where can they find that ebook that you're releasing? What's the due date on that if you have one? And what's your plans going forward with this whole social media coaching thing?
Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram. That's where I'm most consistent. If anyone's any DMs or questions stuff, I'm pretty good at answering. That's just my name at Jason Rotger. Nothing fancy there. YouTube is if you look up Rotger Elite Performance, same last name, then Elite Performance. I have a couple videos there. That's something I'm working on, trying to grow. As far as the ebook goes, that was a idea this morning.
Early stages.
Yeah, but when I come up with ideas, I normally get very like I can't chill out till I accomplish it. Yeah, so who knows? It could be done tonight for all you know. But no, probably like that'll probably be pretty soon. That's probably my next priority because I think that's a big need is understanding how to train youth without burning them out.
Yeah, definitely. And just to give you encouragement, I definitely suggest that you go and do a lot with that YouTube channel. I think that you have a really good message and you're very good at articulating your thoughts over a long period of time, which is like sometimes when we bring people on the show, you never know what you're going to get. And I was definitely very impressed with how in depth and in detail you went on a lot of these topics. So I feel like we could have had this conversation be like 3 hours long with you and Brett going back and forth about the speed stuff and me and you going back and forth about the track stuff. But definitely we'll have you on again in the future, and good luck with your training and good luck coaching your wife and all your athletes as well.
Yeah, thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Thanks for tuning in.
And if you enjoyed it, please leave a 5-star rating and review and share the show, because the only way that this show grows is if you like it, share it, and tell your friends and family about it.
New episode every Monday.